Hey parents, are you wondering whether or not college is still worth it for your kids? Well, I'm Carla Dennis and I'm going to give you a little bit of background on my kids' college journey, what my philosophy is about college, and give you some things to think about so that you can make a good decision on whether or not college is worth it for you and your child. The number one thing that I think about when I think about college is, why are you sending your kids to college? I think that as parents, we need to really back up and ask ourselves that question. And I can honestly tell you that wasn't really a question that I asked myself when my first child was going off to college years ago. But I really think it's a very important question that you want to ask yourself. Why am I sending my kid to school? Am I sending my kid to school because I'm looking for my kid to get that great education and land that great job? Am I sending my kid to school because I think that that's the thing to do? What is the end result that I'm thinking that my kid is going to get once he attends college? When it comes to college, my philosophy really is you gotta figure out sort of what the end game is for your child and then determine the best path for your kid to take. I want to tell you a little bit about my kids' journeys to college. Many of you know I have 4 sons, and I think that that insight is really gonna help you think about college from a completely different perspective. When my first kid was going off to college, I was just excited to have my first child going to college. I really didn't think through the entire college process probably like I should have. There's so many things to consider. My son made it into college, and I was that parent that said, no matter what, I don't care what school you get into, as long as you get there, I am going to pay for it. Well, little did I find out, college was god-awful expensive. The school that my kid ended up going to was a private college. It was costing us like $40,000 per year for him to attend that school, and we wound up with student loans at the end of the day. So some things to really consider. Was that a good decision for him to go to that private school? In hindsight, I don't know if it was or not. I think that he feels like he got a great education. When he went into the school, for one reason, to major in physical therapy, but he came out of the school as a marketing major. So that school was not even a school that one would normally go to even become a marketing major. It was more of a physical therapy school. So one of the things that I am going to say to you as parents is to really think through what you really want your child's end game to be when they come out of college, and realize that the day they walk in that door and declare one major, they may actually wind up with a completely different major. So the first thing I want you to consider is whether or not you should send your kid to college is by asking yourself the question, why is my kid going to college? That's really important. By the time it was time for my second child to go to college, I knew why he wanted to go to college. He landed a football scholarship and he wanted nothing more to finish his high school career in college playing football. He also wanted to be a kinesiology major, and he was very versed in football and sports and extremely athletic. So that seemed like a great major for him to take, right? Not so really. When your kid is going to college and playing in athletics, to take on a science major like kinesiology is a really, really competitive major, requires a lot of brain power. And when your kid is playing sports, which is its own animal in college, and they got to study and get grades, those two things typically don't go well together. So in hindsight, I think that if your kid wants to major in something that is really important, like a science, you might want to consider whether or not you're going to allow your kid to play sports in college. And if so, what is that sports going to look like? What are classes going to look like? Because that stuff becomes very, very important. I think that when it comes to college, my philosophy is that your child is going to wind up doing exactly what they want to do, no matter what college they attend. Ask yourself some really hard questions on the way in the door. Why are they attending college? Is this a smart move for my child? Knowing who my child is, and then make a decision around that. Some other things that I want you to consider when you're thinking about sending your child to college is whether or not your child is going to go into a professional background, such as accounting, such as engineering, such as medical school. If that's the case, then you really need to sort the colleges out and do a lot of homework on those schools. Those kids need to be laser focused in college. I am not going to recommend that a kid that's in a major like that go to school on a sports scholarship. An academic scholarship is one thing, but if your kid is going to school on a sports scholarship, you might want to reconsider whether or not you want them to go into the professions. Why do I say that? Is because when you're going into professions like accounting or engineering or the medical profession, these are professions where it requires a lot of brain power. You really do need them to learn. They really do need to understand what is being taught to them, and you want them to understand it the first time. So making sure that you have a game plan for your kids when they're going into a profession is really important, and is when they are going to go into a profession that I highly recommend that your kids go to college. A great example of that is my fourth son. He's attending college right now. He's going into a profession. He's going into accounting. He elected not to play football in college because he knew he needed to focus, and he had the foresight of what it was like when his brothers attended college. They were on athletic scholarships. They were going into professions. They had to study and they had to show up and perform on the field. After seeing that, he made the decision himself to say, you know what? I'm going to choose my profession, accounting, over trying to play football and half learn my profession. And so that was a very mature decision on his part. So one of the things that you got to think about, parents, is what is the career path that your kid is going to take? Engineering, law, medical, accounting. You got to send your kid to college. They have to pass those exams. They're typically board certified type of exams, and they're going to really need to study. So if your kid is going to go into a profession, I 100% agree. They definitely should be in a college, and they certainly should be in a college that they can definitely learn from. And that's what that college is known for. The next thing that you should consider as a parent is whether or not your kid should attend a JC or go to a 4-year school. I remember early on when my kids were starting out in college, I was like, you are going to attend a 4-year school. You're not going to go to a JC. I am not going to have it. You're not going to get stuck in a 2-year school and stay there forever. And the reason why I made that decision is because I had the experience when I was growing up with my siblings that one of my brother's friends did like 10 years at a JC. Like it took him forever to get out. And so I was very biased when it came to JCs. And so I always wanted my kids to attend a 4-year. You got to decide, is that the right decision? My youngest son right now, he attends a 2-year college that has a matriculation into a 4-year college, and it's a program specifically for accounting majors. So something I'm going to tell you, as you are thinking about college, as you are looking at the cost of college, and really making that decision as a family where your kid should go, you want to dive into some of these junior colleges and see if these colleges have programs that feed automatically into these 4-year schools. The program that my son is in is a cohort of 20 people that they are really pouring into these 20 kids to teach them accounting. I only wish that I had a program like that. But if I was still biased toward junior colleges, I may have never allowed him to attend that type of school. As a matter of fact, it was introduced to me by one of his counselors. And so that really opened my eyes and educated me that this was a great path. And here's the beauty of him attending that junior college. The cost is extremely low in comparison to 4 years. I can honestly tell you that because I'm an accountant and I teach school as well, I'm on a one-on-one with his professors, their curriculum, their plans, the way that they're teaching and pouring into those children, he would not have received had he gone to a 4-year college. So something to consider is how much attention is your child going to get when they go to a 4-year school? Is it going to be enough given your child's personality? Is your child a type of kid that needs a lot of attention? Or do you want your kid to get a lot of attention so they can learn very early on? These are things that you definitely want to consider when you're thinking about which school to send your kid to. The other consideration when you're thinking about the junior college and the 4-year college is the cost. I have to tell you that I employ a lot of people that have college degrees. I have kids that have college degrees, and I really cannot distinguish the amount of knowledge that these kids have, those that came from a junior college to those that came from a 4-year college. But what I can tell you is that the work ethic of a lot of the children that attended the 2-year colleges seems to be higher when I look at how my employees perform as a whole. I think that kids that attend junior colleges have to fight a little harder. I think that the instructors pour into them more because the college classrooms are not as large. So something else to consider when you're really thinking about college is what is the experience that you want your child to have? And when I talk about the college experience at the 4-year level, I can only speak from the vantage point of being a parent that has had 3 kids go through that. Some of the stories that they tell me post-college, if I had known were going on while they were in college, I probably would have gotten them out of that college. So when your kid's in a 4-year, you want them to experience the college life, but there's the frat parties, there's the drinking on campus, there's the uncontrolled intermixing of people on campus. There's so much that goes into that. So you really got to make a strategic decision for your kid. The other thing that I'm going to say, regardless of whether you send your kid to college or not, I really think the question that we need to ask ourselves is my kid equipped coming out of high school for the life skills that they are going to need to live under their own roof, to feed themselves, to eventually bring on a family if that's what they want? So is college going to help them with that? Because I really do believe that when kids come out of high school, that they need to have some level of life skills. And when I talk about that level of life skills, I'm talking about, can your kid cook for themselves? Can they wash their own clothes? Have they ever had to pay a bill on their own? These are skills that we really have to consider when we're thinking about sending our kids to college. If your kid doesn't have those skills, he probably shouldn't go away to a 4-year and live on campus. If your kid is still toddling, you might want to consider the junior college. And if your kid doesn't have any skills at all, and maybe college is not for your kid, consider sending your kid to a trade school. Make sure your kid has a skill set. I think that 4-year colleges are great for some, but I also believe that every single person should have a skill. And skills are really important. A skill for which they can lean into and learn that they actually like, and that they can take that skill and one day be able to put a roof over their head and food in their stomach. Because at the end of the day, the reason why I chose higher education for my children is because I wanted my children to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. I wanted my children to be educated, and I wanted them to be able to walk in my shoes. I personally feel like every generation needs to surpass the next. I hold a master's degree, so that's going to be a tall order for my kids to fill. But I wanted them to have some life skills and to go to college and get to know other people, get to meet people from every different race and background. And I really do think that college allows kids to go out, to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, to be able to integrate with other people, to be able to go into group projects, to be able to learn from others, to be able to face diversity in a kind of controlled environment. And I think it's helpful for kids to have another level of formation after they get out of high school. So personally for me, I think college is a good choice, but the reason why I would send my kids to college today versus my choices back then would be completely different. Today is all about teaching kids how to integrate with others, how to get along with others, how to respect people from all different backgrounds. And it's a place where we can allow our kids to actually grow up a little bit, get educated, and regardless of what you decide as a parent, make sure your kids take financial classes as well, no matter their major, whether it's law, whether it's going into a medical profession. Taking classes in business and finance are very important. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.